the DG. You're welcome, Mr. Habeeb Sanni. Thank you for being our great host. Profile of Dr. Habeeb Sanni. Dr. Habeeb Sanni was born on the 30th December 1964 at 170 Adeniji Adele Road, 63 Jinadu Lane, Isalepo, Lagos. His father was a technician and a fisherman from Ogun Made Compound and Orumile, both of Ogboni Idutafa, now Oligere Chieftaincy family. He has his university education at Lagos University, where he studied history for his graduate and master degree in 1988 and 1997, respectively. He later proceeded to the University of Ibadan for his doctorate degree, again in history, in 2016. Dr. Habeeb Sanni has had a rich and fulfilling career in the academia of 20 years of his first appointment as an assistant lecturer to his present as a senior lecturer at the Department of History and International Relations at his alma mater, the Lagos State University. In the course of his career, he has served in various administrative and managerial capacity, members, LASU Museum, Reorganization Committee 2018, President, LASU Academic Staff, Cooperative Society, Secretary, Lagos Independence Indigenship Verification Committee, IIVC, LASU 2002 to 2017. Members, Lagos State Tribunal of Inquiry into Kusoko Chieftaincy 2006, and Lagos State Isuka Committee for the retrieval of documents on Lagos State history at the National Archives, Kew Gardens, London in 2013 and 2015. He has written several books, monographs, and articles, some of which include Sanni Habeeb 2006, The People of Lagos State, Sanni Habeeb 2012, Adamu Rishaple as an instrument of peace, tourism, and state building since 1800, Sanni Habeeb and others 2015. The History of Lagos State from Earliest Time, Sanni Habeeb 2020. A comparative study of traditional politics and socio-religious activities in the Lekki Peninsula of Lagos up to 1990. From the foregoing, it could be rightly said that Dr. Habeeb Sanni's interest and passion lies in the history and development of Lagos. Dr. Habeeb Sanni has attended conferences both locally and internationally, and is a member of the following distinguished the Royal African Society, UK, the African Study Association of the United Kingdom, the History Society of Nigeria of Lagos Study Association, to mention a few. Dr. Habeeb Sanni is married with children. Happy to present to you Dr. Habeeb Sanni. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Oseni, for that very interesting biography. Once again, Dr. Sanni, we are very happy to have you. I couldn't help but notice that we have some people here from LASU. So if you are from LASU, just let us know by typing into the chat box so we know who are the people here that are here to support their professor. So I'm going to really jump in now and get right into it and ask you. So we have somebody that is typing in there now, so we can see. I'm going to ask you, the first question I have for you is for us to really get into the topic that we are discussing today is, I'm sure people are wondering that what is the area of Lagos that is known as the Eastern District? Doctor, can you please enlighten us?
Thank you very much. The Eastern District of Lagos is that corridor that can be taken in terms of geographical sketch from the present Five Cowrie Bridge at Mekwe. That is around the Victoria Island up to Ibeju Lekki and it shares a boundary with Epe, between Ibeju, Lekki, the lagoon there. Then it runs down to the area that is very close to Ogun State now. It shares boundary with Ogun State at we call that place, it's an island around the Ogun State, called Itaoko in Ogun State. There's a particular kingdom around there, Odeomi specifically, Odeomi, where we have the Nenua as the king of the area. In essence, if you are talking of the Eastern District of Lagos, we are looking at such areas that include so many kingdoms, such as the Iru Kingdom, where you have the Onuru. We have a part of the kingdom of Ikoyi, as well as the kingdom under Elegushi. That is Ikate, to Ajiro, and several other communities along that. We have the kingdom of Iru, and extends to as far as Okumoko Kekere. There, it shares boundary with Moko Ijebu. Moko Kekere is called by another name as Moko Akinlade. And from that Moko Ijebu, we have Ibeju, Lekki axis extending to Odeomi, as I said earlier on. So that is the Eastern District of Lagos. It's a vast area of land with several kingdoms, the biggest of which is the Kingdom of Ibeju, which has more than 175 communities under it, smaller communities. Then we have Ajiran, we have Aja under Olumegbon, although that has been a subject of dispute over time.
Okay.
Between Olumegbon and his tenants. Then we have Ikate under Elegushi. And several other kingdoms, Iwerekun, Akodo, Ise, Lekki, etc., etc. There are several kingdoms in this area called Eastern District. It was so called by the colonial government at that time when they have established contact with Lagos.
Okay.
And Lagos was divided into Eastern District, then comprising all of these areas. Then we have the Western District, which comprised of area from modern Ajegunle up to the Seme border in Badagry division of modern Lagos State. So that, in a nutshell, is the geographical location of the Eastern District of Lagos.
So thank you for that, sir. So does that mean that, I know now in Lagos we have the senatorial districts, we have the East,
Yes.
West.
Yes.
So that is directly from the colonial masters when they were administering Lagos?
Yes, to a large extent. The Lagos Central is known as the Lagos Colony, or was known as the Lagos Colony,
Okay.
up till the creation of up till around 1950, yes, until around 1953, when it assumed the status of the Federal Capital Territory. Lagos Central was known as the Lagos Colony, yes, up to that time. Some part of these areas, though historically, belong to part of Lagos, Lagos Colony. Some part of the area, especially such areas as Iru,
Okay.
Ikate, and some part of up till that area that I refer to as Mokwa Kinlade, used to be part of Lagos Kingdom. In fact, even Ibeju itself was part of Lagos Kingdom. But by the time the colonial masters came, some part of this area were considered Lagos district. I mean Lagos colony. There at a later period, there was a further demarcation, and the Eastern District, the Ikorodu, Ado area, the Ikorodu Idede area fell under Ikorodu District. We have the Ikeja District to some extent. Then we have the Western District comprising Ajegule and the various areas that some people have referred to generally as the Egbuawori areas up to border of Nigeria with Benin Republic.
Okay.
That is how it was at that time.
Okay. So very interesting, sir. So it's I just wanted us to also understand a little bit, because I know you've done quite a bit of research on the history of the Eastern District. Can you just please give us a little bit of an overview on the history of that section of Lagos, please?
Thank you very much. If we have to look at the Eastern District of Lagos, there are a series of migrations of people into the area. And we cannot, in a single lecture as this, discuss completely the history of people that came at different times to occupy the area that is today Eastern District. But what is certain is that by around the late 16th century and probably the 17th century, the area had been peopled by two categories of indigenous. We can talk of, in the Ibeju area, we can talk of the Benin and the Ijebu people in that area. Then in the Lekki or Etiosa axis, we have the Awori speaking people, mostly believed to be either brothers or children of the legendary Olofin, the founder of Lagos, who was believed to have initially migrated from Ife to some people to the area first known as Isheri Olofin, and from where a series of movements, dispersal, led to the founding of several other communities in Lagos State today. In the east of Lagos, in the west and central part of Lagos. Olofin, another Olofin, probably not the same as the Olofin Ogunfunminire, also settled at Ido. And although historians or the local historians have often linked this Olofin with the same person, but I can say clearly here that Olofin in Yoruba or Lagos history is not just a single personage. There were several of them known as Olofin. So Olofin that settled at Ido, some believe was the same person that was coming from Isheri. He settled, you know, and at different places. Then eventually, first at Ebute Meta, where some people said it's three wharfs. Ebute Meta, some believe it was the name emanated from one Oto, Oyigbo, and Ido. But in recent times, there are records that showed that the area actually was Ebute Imuata, where people sourced for pepper, okay, or where pepper was planted. So that is that. But eventually, Ido became the epicenter of Olofin settlement, where the children of Olofin, who are variously believed to be either 11, 16, 32, or more, you know, took different locations in Lagos Island, starting with Aromire, and then some of his brothers, such as Onikoyi, although there is a perception that the Onikoyi chieftaincy, the leader of that Onikoyi, actually came from Ikoyile, married into Aromire's family, and was, enticed into Lagos such that he could not go back to his place. Then we have Onitano, we have Onitolo. Of course, we have those who settled after Itolo, and that is where Oniru comes in. Oniru's land extended from the modern marina, where we have the cathedral church, and extended to as far as where they are today, with about 22 different villages, each of these villages under a chief or a baale and an assistant baale. And so we have Oniru there. At the Ikate, we have the Elegushi. Then at Ajiran, we have Ojomu of Ajiran, who claims to be Olofin's brother, that had to leave Ido when the Benin attacked Olofin's homestead at that time. So we have all of these three now royal families constituting the Etiosa axis. Of course, we also have the Onikoyi in Etiosa. Yes. So we have about 4 of them in Etiosa, and then they extended into the several villages that are controlled by them. For instance, in Ajiran, there are about 12 villages, some of which includes Agungi, Iberekodo, Nife, Agungi, Iberekodo, Nife, Osapa, several other villages as such, about 12 of them. One of the most important of that is where we have the Nigerian Conservation Fund, Foundation. Yes, and it was the center of the settlement of Ajiran. In the Kate area, we have Ogolo, we have Ologolo, Ogoyo, and several other places like that too. About 8 different communities where which was under the Elegushi of Ikate, and of course for the Oniru, there are about 22 communities, some of which include Itini. That's where we have today the Federal Palace. We have Otepole, Abule Ode, Inopa, several other, villages, about 22 of them, that today have taken different names. One of it, where we have the Oyinkan Abayomi, it used to be part of course, it's still part of the kingdom of Oniru. So these people settled in different areas and occupied the areas, took control over the land, as well as the territorial water, where nobody would be able to fish unless the owners of the territorial waters have been contacted and adequate necessary payment is made before they can fish in the area. So
I want to talk a little bit about the history of that area. How did it come into being? I know you mentioned a lot, you mentioned the children, but I had a chance to look at your paper, and I know you mentioned there's a story on how that, I think Ibejuleki, how did Ibejuleki start?
Okay, let's take Ibeju. For instance, Ibeju is believed to have been founded by one man that some people refer to as Agbare. Some call him Agbani. Of course, he was also known as Agbedua.
Agbedua, yes.
Agbedua. This man was believed to have come from Benin axis, although he was believed to be a grandson of Odudua, who migrated to the Benin area around the 15th century. And then later on, he came into Ibeju. at Ibeju. The name Ibeju was believed to have emerged from Ibitioto. There were 3 islands. And the man eventually chose the biggest of the islands and he settled there. And the name is believed to have been coined from Ibiti Otobiju. That's one of the versions of the founding of Ibeju. Of course, it was believed that when sedentary lifestyle began to take proper root in the place, the man who was initially into palm wine tapping also went into peasant farming. And so over time, Ibeju, which was also a place where there was abundance of God, that is Agbe.
Okay.
Became Ibeju Agbe. That is it, Ibeju Agbe, because God was believed to have found in abundance in the area, and so it became known by that name, Ibeju Agbe. Of course, there is another tradition which claims that Ibeju was founded by Abeju, a hunter from Ile-Ife, who first migrated to Benin, just like I have said earlier on, settled there for a while, and from there moved to began to make a series of visits to the Lagoon region for games. So he was into hunting. And during one of such hunting activities, he came with some of his children and his wife, and that the wife was actually named Agbe. The children were Agbedua, Agbare, and Kade, about 3 of them. After some time, some people later came from the mainland area to join him there, or mainland Ijebu area, because it was believed that they were all Ijebu anyway, around that area. They came to join him there and requested that he should be their leader. However, this man believed that he was quite old and feeble, that he could not be in control of an area that will eventually become a kingdom. So he chose one of his sons named Agbedua to be the overlord of that settlement. And Agbedua became the first Onibeji. That's how that other aspect, the verse will be concluded. However, there is an information in Lagos Kingdom that indicates that that's the third one, and the third verse,
Okay.
that the Onibeju was one of the white cap chiefs of Lagos. And this is contained in the 1939 Commission of Inquiry conducted then into the house of Dosumu, where Onibeju was actually listed as one of the Ibejo chiefs. Of course, this may be very difficult for those people in the area to believe, but it was also supported by some other information given by one Papa M.A.O. Dukoya, who wrote an unpublished work about the history of Ibeju area. So the man was a local historian in that area, and he pointed out that there was a link to Lagos. The link to Lagos was that when Olofin arrived at Ido, he married from
Hello. It looks like.
I think the network of his side is not too strong.
Yes, that's what I was thinking.
Thank you. I'm back here. So
okay, maybe, doctor, you can try. Okay, let's continue like that. Okay, so you were saying that we lost you when you said that the Olofin married
Yeah, Olofin married Ajayi from Ibeju. And when she eventually betrayed Olofin, and the man was taken captive to Benin, it was believed that in Ibeju today, there is the abyss of Ajayi, where an Abeju or the king of Ibeju must, do the seclusion before he eventually becomes a full-fledged king. And that place is called Ojude Ajayi, Eleni Nido. So it is there in Ibeju. However, the general perception is that around 1928, there was what I refer to as the Ibeju Renaissance, where the people of Ibeju were given the opportunity by the colonial government in the course of introducing taxation into the area to choose where they want to belong. And a lot of these people chose to belong to Ibeju and not to Lagos. There is an archival document that relates to that, and it is taxation.
Okay, I want to stop you there for a second, sir, and just really, because you mentioned 3 different traditions, but it doesn't seem like they are mutually exclusive. It seems to me like they could all be true.
Yes, they are. Yes, they are all almost similar.
Yes, because the Ibeju people came from Ife. We also have some people that came from Ijebu. We know that there is an influence. We know that there is a confederacy where all the white cap chiefs work together with the Oba of Lagos. Sorry, with the Eleko, as it was known then. So is that correct?
So yes, to a large extent, yes, it's correct. But there is also the Alara tradition.
Okay.
The Alara of Efe tradition claimed that the first settler in Ibeju was a slave of Ilara, who was actually into palm wine tapping. And on one occasion, when the first king of Lagos was coming, that was, they said although Ashipa was the first person that actually got to Lagos. So they said when he was coming from Benin, the Abeju, offered him some palm wine, which he tasted, and he gave him beads and some coronets. And so he became a chief under Lagos. So, but what the Alara or the Lara tradition is saying is that Abeju or the Onibeju was a slave of the Alara. But all of these, when put together, point into one direction, that the founder of Ibeju was that either Agbedua or that person known as Agbani, who probably had a link with Ife, and then from Ife moved to Benin later on before he settled at what became known today as Ibeju. Yes, so Ibeju Lekki, of course, there is a king of Lekki distinct from the Onibeju. There is also Ibeju, which seems to be more of a Lagos kingdom in terms of accoutrement and culture than being a purely an Ijebu, person. But the fact is that Ibeju area is peopled by 2 categories or 3 now. We can talk of the Benin, the Ijebu people who came from mainland Ekwe area, and there was a perception of about Macaulay that people that came into Ibeju, Ijebu that came into Ibeju actually committed crime. They committed murder, and so against the Awujale of Ijebu, and they were looking for a place of refuge. That was when they came to Ibeju. Well, that to some extent would probably give us the impression that the Ibeju of Lagos, that I will say now terminates at Okumoko, Akinlade, or Moko Kekere, is a bit different from Ibeju of the Ijebu area. But after some time, the 2 of them came together and you know, they agreed on the mode of traditional system of government where we have today the Abiodun as the primus inter. Yes, amongst others, because you find out today, even in Ibeju, some of the chieftaincy families or some of the chieftaincies in Lagos are also replicated in Ibeju. For instance, they have Itu, they have Aromire, they have Shashore, they have Oluwa. They have several of you know, chieftaincy families or chieftaincy titles that we have in Lagos in Ibeju area, even though those of Ibeju appears to be quite not so active as we have seen in Lagos.
So, were they anybody's subjects? So when they just came there, they just went there and they took up residence and they created their own society. So they were not responsible to Benin or to Ijebu or to Ile-Ife.
Well, to some extent, we have information, oral information that indicates that for a very long time, the Abeju or Onibeju was just and one of I think Agbani now became I think he was Oye Meso, whose mother was from Ijebu. A kind of chiefdom to becoming a kingdom per se. But even at that time, it was still under the control of Lagos until around 1928 when it severed relations. And to support that, there was a memo I mentioned earlier on titled Taxation, Lagos District East Coast Section, written by the Assistant Commissioner to the DO of Ekwe. Then, the Assistant Commissioner's memo was an aftermath of the meeting with the Oba of Lagos at that time. I think when taxation was about to be introduced into Lagos colony and the district areas. The Eleko of that time, Sanusi Olusi, raised an issue that since he became the king, he had not seen the Onibeju to congratulate him. And so that memo was, you know, sent to the DO of Ekwe by the Assistant Commissioner of Lagos. And so that was in March 1928. But from that period, it was like a kind of referendum was conducted around the areas in the modern, the Eastern District of Lagos. A referendum that allows people to choose where they wanted to belong. And most of those in the Ibeju, Lekki area decided to go with the Onibeju and Ekwe. Then those in the Etiosa area preferred to stay with the Kingdom of Lagos. Of course, at a point, they were also merged with the Ikorodu district, especially during the Western Regional Government era of Chief Obafemi Awolowo, such that at that time, one of the chiefs of Elegushi, I think Chief Dauda Fasanya, was representing Etiosa area at the House of Chiefs, which was headquartered at Ikorodu then. And then it was at that time they also began their own agitation to free themselves from Ikorodu because they believed they were more of Lagos than Ikorodu. In fact, some of them felt that their own settlement was older than Ikorodu. And so they tried to correct the, the geographical lump up sort of that was put in place by the Western regional government by trying to separate themselves. That was when they formed an association of Etiosa Development Council, known as ASIDEC. And the immediate past Oba Elegushi was a member. Papa Dauda Fasoya was a member. One papa known as Muslim Dachofundo from Mako Akinlade was also a member. So at that time, these people began the agitation to separate themselves from Ikorodu district, where they believed they did not belong. And by around 1967, when Lagos State was created, they were merged to become part of modern Lagos State.
Okay, that's very interesting, sir. It looks to me like there were so many issues that were faced even before when Nigeria got independence. We know that when the colonial masters were in control, there was a lot of instances where they didn't even recognize many of these kingdoms because they didn't understand them. So, I wanted to also...
Yes. In fact, even the above. Okay.
Sorry, go ahead, sir. You were saying even the above.
Even the above Lagos, after the conquest of 1851.
That's Akitoye. Oh.
Yes, gradually reduced to becoming just a chief of the Dosumu Oyekon ruling house at a later period, especially when Dosumu became the king. And by that was in 1853. By 1900, when Eshuba Ayeleko was made the king,
yes,
the same issue that was raised by the colonial government in 1853 was reiterated to Eshuba Ayeleko, that he occupied that position not with any political authority, but as the chief of the Dosumu Oyekon ruling house. And gradually, the Oba of Lagos was only considered a prince because the Queen of England, or the king, as the case may be, is considered the suzerain of all the areas that were under British colonialism. So the same thing applied to those areas where we have all of these people. They could be seen as the custodians of their own land, owners of the land.
Sis, I want us to really tackle this so that there is no confusion. So for those of us that are not understanding this, Kosoko was the king of Oba of Lagos in the 1850s, and the British, I think, led by Beechcroft then, also.
Yes.
They wanted, under the guise of the fact that they said they wanted to eradicate slavery, which we know is not correct, they wanted to take over Lagos because they felt that Lagos was basically the entry point for Nigeria, and they wanted somebody that they could actually control. So they, with force, they took over Lagos and they installed Akitoye.
Yeah, they reinstalled it.
They installed Akitoye is the uncle of Kosoko, but they installed Akitoye, and he was more of a docile king. Yes. So during that period because when Akitoye came in, and then after him Dosumu came in and had to sign the cession of Lagos to the British Kingdom, in essence, with that singular act, all the kingdoms, all the chiefs became irrelevant in the eyes of the British.
Sure. Yes. Although this was contested. It was contested by the Idejo, who consider themselves, who are the landowners anyway. And they clearly wrote a petition, which was also supported by King Dosumu at that time, to the British authorities that the land does not belong to the king, so he could not sign away their land, that they were the custodians of the land. And so some people believe that it was from that period that the Idejo, were for the first time brought together as a force to be reckoned with in land in Lagos, and as the land gentry in Lagos society. So that is about that. But if we go into the areas of the Eastern District,
yes,
there is this Fowler's position that the area was initially peopled in the distant past, in times immemorial, by the Awori and Bini people, by the Awori people who were escaping from the attack of the Benin at Ido, and so they moved into that area. So we can talk of the coming of the Elegushi of Ikate, Oniru, Onikoyi into those areas as a result of the Benin's conquest of Ido. And aftermath, these people, occupied the area fully. But prior to that time, the area had been used mainly for fishing and hunting activities prior to the time the Benin conquered Ido Island and took all of the captive to Benin. So what am I trying to put forward here is there have been settlements, even though not a total occupation of the area. There was a settlement in the area prior to the Benin's conquest of Lagos in around late 16th century and early 17th century. There have been people in the area.
I have a question, sir. I want us to shift gears a bit. And I see that people are chatting in the, putting some of their comments in the chat. And I want to encourage people to, as they're listening, they can make comments in the chat and we'll pick from those comments to address them. But somebody mentioned that, I see a lot of disconnect in the history of Lagos and other kingdoms of the southwest of Nigeria, especially the history of pre-contact with Europe. While the history of Lagos since European presence could stand the test of time, there are lots of missing tidbits and bits of our history. Therefore, there's a need to revisit the history of Lagos circa 1200 to 1600, using the latest technology and doing critical analysis to set our heritage straight. So I think we are attacking that in this conversation. You are really talking about that.
Yes, to a large extent, I understand that person must also be a historian. And I think he's one of our brothers and a colleague from LASU. There is a perception, especially in Lagos, that Lagos is not, in the real sense of it, part of Yoruba land.
Yes.
Well, I don't know if I should go into the details. The Oba of Lagos,
because it's a big bone of contention, because some historians are saying that Lagos is not Yoruba territory. Lagos was a country before Nigeria was even created. So I want you to talk about this, sir.
Well, the perception that Lagos is not Yoruba to some extent may be correct, because we discovered much later, especially when the Europeans came, that the name Yoruba was a recent reference to the people that occupied the southwest area of modern Nigeria.
Yes.
It had been used exclusively to refer to Oyo people.
Yes.
And if we are to go further, for a very long time, even when Oyo Empire was at its peak, it had no control over the kingdom of Lagos. But what people have always said is that Lagos, started with the movement of Olofin, who was believed to be one of the children of Oduduwa. As a historian of Lagos, I will also want to debunk that to a large extent, that out of the 16 or whatever named children, I mean, out of the 16 children of Odudua, you cannot find Olofin as one of them. That's
Okay.
one. Although the king of Ife himself was also referred to as Olofin Adimola. Yes, but what is a common trend in the past is that kingdoms and societies seems to identify themselves with popular legends, hero civilisator in an area. And so we find this even in our own Lagos, to the extent that everybody seems to be claiming to be Omolofin. I don't know if I am communicating. So,
Yeah.
in fact, I should refer to a particular man. Sigismund was his name. Sigismund, somebody wrote Polyglotta Africana around 1850 or thereabouts. He was a Catholic, he was a catechist who came around a German who came around different parts of Africa, and he tried to address this issue of Yoruba being the common name of the people that occupied. Then there was no Southwest that occupied the area that is today modern Southwest of Nigeria. What actually unified all of us is the language spoken by us. And that language is taken from the mode of our greeting, which is Aku, Ekaaro, Ekaason, Ekurole, Ekaale. So even in Sierra Leone, those people that were rescued and taken to settle in Freetown were often referred to as Aku, not as Yoruba. So if Lagos claims, if there are claims in Lagos that Lagos is not part of Yoruba, it may be correct to a large extent. In fact, there was also a memo written by the late Oba Adediji Adele to the colonial government in 1956, if I'm not mistaken, about the need for the creation of a Lagos region. Although we can say our king there was looking for something, maybe I am sorry to use that word, he was a bit selfish. Yes, he was asking for a Lagos region to be headed by the king of Lagos. And in that memo, a secret memo to the colonial government that was found in archives in London at the King's Garden, he reiterated, he documented the fact that there was no time in the history of Lagos when it was under any kingdom in Yoruba land. And that becomes an important issue in history of Lagos. If we go back to Akinsemoyin's era, Akinsemoyin from the local tradition is believed to have reigned from 1704 till around 1740 something. But to the historians who have subjected so many things to, proper scrutiny, Akinsemoyin reigned from around 1750 upwards, and till around 1774. So Akinsemoyin was the man who transformed Lagos from being, I don't know if I can say, a backward kingdom into a modern center of commerce. When, through his ingenuity, slave trade became the major activity, the major economic activity in Lagos society. And to a large extent, eclipsed other forms of trading activities at that time. So from Akinsemoyin's era, which also coincided with the period when Oyo Empire was at its apogee and was actually declining, there was no control of Lagos by any interior king or interland king. Akinsemoyin lifted Lagos to become an important slave emporium, where all the captured slaves or all the captured soldiers in the interior were brought to Lagos for sale to the Europeans. And they created about 2 different areas for the people coming to sell. He collected tolls. For the Europeans too, he collected tolls. And it was from the tolls that Lagos became an important slave emporium. And eventually that affected the stool of ownership in Lagos, such that it became something that every prince of the royal house just stood for the throne. Unfortunately for Lagos, there was no clear-cut pattern of succession. Lagos was not a primogeniture society where a father-to-son system of succession was in place, especially from Akishemoyi's era. So, from that period, any member of the royal house who felt he had interest in the throne, contested the throne. And that was why Lagos became a center of so many successful disputes, especially from around 1805, when Adele Ajosu had problem with Eshin-Lokun. And that extended later on to Eshin-Lokun's family, of course, led by Kosoko, and against Oluwole, and later on against Akitoye. So, what am I putting forward here? Lagos was devoid of control of any interland state. Of course, we probably share a common heritage of language, of culture, and perhaps of some aspect of relation, because we found out that some of the kings of Lagos either had an Egba mother, an Egu mother, or something like that, an Ijebu mother. So from that, we can see that the common bond appears to be the area, the geographical contiguity, and later on, this was extended to filial relation and family relation.
Interesting. This is very, very interesting, sir. I want us to, open the floor for questions. So if anybody has questions, you can just please go ahead and type it into the Q&A box or into the chat box. But somebody has already made a, contributions I wanted to talk about, and it's going back to the colonial era. We had talked about how the colonialists didn't recognize some of these kingdoms. And the person said, they were actually recognized, but that they just combined them. I just want to read out what he said. He said the colonial government recognized the areas, and more so because of accruals of taxation. But the topography of the areas made it far-flung for the reach of the colonial government. The reason why they were lumped with Ikorodu or Ikeja, where the colonial powers could easily administer them. So I think that's just some clarification on the issues of how, because one of the things that I think is a little bit of a shame is that you mentioned so many villages coming even from Marina all the way down to Ibeju. You talk about even where Federal Palace is today, it was a village, Yes. And we don't really know all these names. Is there anywhere that this information is kept where people can actually, apart from historical records, but do we use them in administration? Are we keeping track of all these villages and this heritage?
This is where the government will have to come in, and also the people from the area. For instance, I have mentioned Itiri. Itiri is the old name for Federal Palace.
Ikiri.
Okay. Itirin.
Itiri.
Yes, that's the old name for where we have the Federal Palace today. And we have Akpese. Akpese is the real Babish. In fact, the seat of traditional government of the Oniru was at Akpese at a point in history. Yes, Akpese is where we have the Babish Tower now. Around that area, around the area facing the Atlantic Ocean.
Somebody said Marina is aiming.
In fact, Marina was the fourth place. Marina. was the first place. I mentioned earlier in my discussion that the Onitolo shared boundary with Oniru around the marina area. Of course, Onitolo was in Itolo and is still there. Itolo and Alakoro, Momi Alakoro area. And then we have the other section of marina occupied by the Oniru. When the colonial government came, it was taken to be, of course, for the construction of the cathedral church and even the seat of the colonial government. What we call the Lagos House today was the seat of the colonial government. It was part of the land of Oniru up to Tafawa Balewa, the King's College. All of those areas, Otepole, Abule Inupa, several other communities, Igboshere, etc., were under the Oniru. And I think the colonial government should be able to do, the Lagos state government should be able to do something, especially to assist the Lagos State Records and Archives Bureau to identify the names of these areas and the old name I'm talking of, and put these names back there for people to know the original name of the area. Yes. That is how the British have done it. That's how the Americans have done it. They continue to protect their own heritage. But here, because of these people, because they have come and dominated us, we seem to have forgotten the local names of some of the areas. I think the Lagos state government have the responsibility to go back and rename or include that this area was initially known as so before it became race course, for instance.
I agree. And I think I'm going to discuss this with you after this because it's very important. Even just talking about, for instance, you look at some of the streets that we have in Ikoyi, you have Glover, you have Cameron, you have Thompson. These are the former governors. But what about the former Elekos? We don't have anything that mentions them, like Eshubai, like Kotoko, like, so you're right.
So there is a need to go back to history. This is our own heritage, and it behoves the state government to go towards this direction. There is also the need, I think, for the for the state government to also create, alongside LASRA, for instance, a Lagos history heritage, or if possible, if various royal houses to have their own, historical heritage, where their history, their culture can, be situated. And this will be an important source of revenue generation for the state. Because we go to several places in London. We go to, apart from the Kew Gardens, where you have the National Archives. There is the Botanical Garden, also known as Kew Garden, and several other places that people visit, for tourism. What is wrong with us in Nigeria or in Lagos that we cannot get some of these areas that have played significant role in our history to become center of tourism and generate revenue for the state? Because from history are doomed to repeat the mistake of history.
Yes, absolutely right, sir. And we're going to follow this up with you. Somebody, Mr. Adekunle Ajanoku, I think he's a lecturer in LASU. He has this contribution. He said,
Mr. Adekunle
Ajanoku. Yes. He said the lecturer should, sorry?
A former PS, a retired PS.
Oh, wow. Retired PS. Wow. Well done, sir. Thank you very much for joining us, sir. So he said the lecturer should please touch on Oriba Town, Lamodi, Aja, Mayegun, Shongotedu, etc., and other known settlements in the eastern district of Lagos. Ibeju and Ibeju Agbe are not the only old settlements in that axis.
Serious, I said it earlier on. Uncle Adekunle, Uncle Ajanoku, I mentioned it earlier on that we cannot cover everything in a single lecture as this. Oriba has link with Lagos through Kosoko. The same thing with Gotedo, Ijong, Langbasa,
Yes.
and we have Obadore. Some of these areas, in fact, there are, if I were to look at this properly, I will identify about 3 or 4 different layers of movement into the Etiosa, the axis. We talk of the area, the era when we had the Benin people coming through Agbare, or Ife people coming through Agbare or Agbani into Ibejuleki. I dated that to the period before the 17th century. But the second layer of movement from Lagos from around 1836, after the Ogun, what do you call that battle now? The battle between Kosoko and Oluwole, Ewe Koko War. During the Ewe Koko War of 1836, some of Kosoko's movement, after being defeated, some of Kosoko's supporters, after being defeated in Lagos, moved towards that area, such that King at that time had a name, an oriki, that said, Mole Kambonegu, Mole Kambonegba, Aferu Oba Tuyagba Yagba, Lojomi. I think that was Oluwole, because some of those people who moved towards the Etiosa axis, and from there to Ekwe. In fact, whenever there was succession dispute or war in Lagos, the vanquished usually find settlements outside the Lagos area, and you find them in different parts of modern Lagos State. In Ikorodu, you have such areas, as Ibeshe, Bayeku, occupied by some of those people who moved from Lagos. Of course, we also have the Bukega, where you have the family of the Eshinlokun, settled initially as what's the name of the man? Relation of Eshinlokun's family. They are still there up to today. But we also have, for instance, people who moved into Obadore, especially after 1851 conquest. Kosoko was believed to have moved with about 2,000 of his supporters towards that axis, to the extent that they dominated, the area, subjugating to some extent, because Kosoko was a man noted for his trouble. He was considered a troublesome person, to the extent that he had his nomen, imagine from that. Ó dúró níta làṣà, ó dúró níta àpá ilé ò gbọdọ̀ roko, làṣà ilé ò gbọdọ̀ rodò, èkó ilé ò gbọdọ̀ ta fínfínrín lójú omi, òṣọmọ ọba jagun bí ẹrú, ògbórí olórí sọ̀kalẹ̀ lóòrùn gangan, apàmàrò bí ẹni pàdé, adìyẹ yógún fogún, ẹlẹ́dìyẹ ò fọmọ re, adìyẹ yọ́gbò fọgbọ̀, ẹlẹ́dìyẹ ò fọmọ re, ẹbínú gbádìyẹ tẹ̀ fowó ra owó ayé, awó yín ẹyin mẹ́fà, ó pàdé kan ṣoṣo. That was Kosoko's nomen. Kosoko was even recognized by the colonial government, even by the British, even before he was conquered. He had been portrayed to be a bad man at the British Parliament, that he was terrorizing all those areas in the neighborhood of the Kingdom of Lagos. And so, if we look at the areas such as Oriba, Obadore, in fact, it was so called Obadore because it was believed that Kosoko stayed there, and the name Obadore was starting from Obadurore. Of course, we also recollect the fact that when Kosoko became a terror to the British settlement after 1851, they had to call it to a settlement at what had been referred to as the Palava Highlands. The Palava Highlands is one of those settlements between Bayeku and Langbasa. It's an island on the lagoon where people could be looking straight at Lagos, but they met there because it was still the era of warfare. Kosoko was not at that meeting, but was led by chief warrior Oshodi Papala and Diji to engage the British in a settlement that said Kosoko should be allowed to stay in Efe, was given some responsibilities, some areas that were under its control, including Ibeju, Lekki, and all those areas. There are so many villages established in the area by Kosoko as Kosoko's followers who continued to administer the area during the period of Kosoko's exile and even after that, such that even today, you have one Oshodi being a king in the, what is that place now? Around Lekki, not Lekki itself. Lekki has a king, but there is a kingdom that we have the Oshodi controlling in that area. So there are several of these areas that, were taken over. Ado Kekere. Today you find the Eshinoku family, controlling the area. The Dosumus, also the same as the Dosumu of Lagos in Ado. It is only Langbasa that has a claim or relationship to Ijebu Idowa in that area, in the Ethiopian axis. Although even Langbasa itself, there are Lagos elements within their case. So it is not something that we can discuss in a single lecture like this. There are series of settlements in that area that we cannot just conclude, untouch everything in a single lecture.
Well, that's very interesting. And somebody actually asked that it seems that the available history of the subject area could only be traced to the 17th century. What about the history of the period before that time?
It was earlier than that. In fact, it is just that I am not reading my paper directly. I'm only, responding to 17th century that I refer to is fluid. Of course, there have been settlements prior to that time, and I mentioned that. We have used the 17th century because it became an era during which we can be talking of the Benin's invasion. Understand? We can be talking of Benin's invasion of the area. People are settled in this area. And I mentioned it that T.F. Baker, who wrote about the Etiosa axis, the reorganization of Etiosa, indicated that the settlement began in the period, not specific anyway, long period. I want to see if I can, the reorganization of Etiosa. He said it may be accepted that the earliest penetration of the Etiosa area, for instance, were made by hunters and fishermen in remote past. That means we cannot talk of the exact period. And that's part of the problem of pre-literate society, the inability to tag, the beginning or origin of particular event to a particular time. And he said further that, but permanent settlement probably dates from he even said 18th century, which is not correct. As I said earlier on, it was that Benin's conquest of Lagos that actually jolted some of the settlers in the Lagos area who have been using these areas as hunting and fishing grounds, to eventually went into hiding in that area. And when we are discussing layers of settlement, we talk about the period from, let's say, from around 1500 or as long as people can think of. Some people say 13th century. Even Lagos itself was believed to have been founded around 1430. That's the 15th century. Although we don't have any serious document to support that. Serious document does not support that. Let's take it for granted that from that period, Lagos was founded. And some of these areas too would have had, some individuals or people who have been using the area, either as hunting or fishing grounds. Okay. Then when permanent or when sedentary lifestyle began, then they begin, to take possessions of the land, let's say from around the 17th century. So what I'm trying to put forward here is that 17th century is not sacrosanct, it's fluid, but we can only target to the aftermath of the Benin's conquest of Lagos. And mind you, it is not only Lagos that Benin had influence. Right from Ode Benin, Shekiri, Ilaje, Odo, up to modern Benin Republic, you have Benin's influence in all of those areas. Along the coastal region of about 2-3 states in Nigeria and another country in Benin Republic. So what am I trying to put forward there? The settlement predates the 17th century, but permanent settlement, just as Paola had said, could be said to have began around that period when the Benin began, the attack on the Lagos territory, not just Lagos now, because aside from, in fact, it was believed that at a point, the people of Ibeju had to block that area, the lagoon section where the Benin warriors used to pass to get to them, at least to put a temporary stop to Benin's constant attack of the area. So what am I trying to say? It is earlier than the 17th century, but because of the paucity of information, verifiable information, we cannot go into those times immemorial and discuss them.
Thank you, sir. Somebody had a contribution. They said, why is it difficult for the Lagos State government, which is, I want to take that question. Why is it difficult for the Lagos State government to come up with a curriculum on cultural studies from primary to tertiary institutions? So I believe that, we actually have something that is being worked on. I think it's actually in partnership with LASU, if I'm not mistaken. So just want to let that person know that there's something that is being worked on, and it's actually been submitted to the Lagos State Ministry of Education. There are some processes that need to be, that it has to go through. And we are really hopeful because we know that it's very important for everybody to learn the history of Lagos. It's a very wonderful history, and we're very passionate about ensuring that that happens. There's another question here. Somebody says, do the Eastern District people have different culture and religion from Lagos people?
That's very interesting. Well, let me take it from this perspective. If we talk of intergroup relation, it's relation that borders on economic, political, and social-religious activities. The people of the Eastern District have similar or almost the same culture with the people of Lagos. I have said it clearly that the Ibejo, then chieftaincy in that area that had transmuted into kingship now or into royalty now, shared the same culture with the people of Lagos. In fact, one of the most important aspects of the culture is the worship of Olokun, the goddess of the river. And you know that this is something that is taken, serious, very germane to the peaceful, coexistence, not just of the people of the area, but between the people, the physical, and the spiritual realm. Olokun is believed to be a goddess of that river, of the ocean. And the kingdom of Iru had pivoted over time, the worshipping of that. Of course, there is also the worship of Olokun in Lagos and in the Dept area. Aside from this, there is the issue of boat regatta, or Koshi, is what the Ijebu people calls it. Here we call it Okwaje. It's a popular culture among the riverine people of modern Lagos State, and even beyond Lagos, to Delta, the Afijere, Ilaje people and the real Delta people, they participate or they have for a very long time, an annual, festival, where the goddess of the goddess of the ocean is deified and worshipped through the activities of Oko Aje. In Lagos, it is called Oko Aje. Among the Igbo of that area, it is called Okoshi. In some other parts, it is called Agbo. It has to do with a common culture through, intergroup relations. Aside from that, most of the food stuff that we eat in Lagos, we have in Lagos, even from the pre-colonial era, comes from the Eastern District in those days. The area is well known for gari, cassava, corn, of course, the coconut, and varieties of fish that found itself into the Lagos market. Specifically, it should be mentioned that the word Obueko is an Ijebu word for Obun. It's Ijebu for market. Eko, Oja Eko, Obueko. So that shows that the Ijebus of that axis, and even beyond the axis of Lagos, had a lot of economic relations that brought them into Lagos. Lagos had always been that center of marketing activities where all these people will definitely bring their goods to sell and return to their area. In fact, there is I was talking recently with one of our mothers that in Lagos there is what is called Shawa Agboṣere. Shawa Agboṣere is considered to be a special shower. Agboṣere is under the Oniru. So we have that. We have several other, water creations that are brought into Lagos. Then, of course, the Ojo Olobu is known for that shower, not necessarily the Agboṣere shower that people carry about, but shower coming in from, all of this area. So in terms of economic relations, we can talk of, the bringing of goods, sort of, into Lagos society from this area. Of course, it does not really mean that the Egyptians don't have their own, In fact, when a British man came around in 1780, one of those things that he found in abundance, especially at Ebute level, where you find some of these Ijebu, is the abundance of, he called it handsome fishes, and the fowl. That was J.B. Adams. When he came around 1780, he saw a lot at the Lagos market at Ebute level, where people of Ijebu, and he said it that it has been before, before he said that, he said the people of Lagos, exported fish to Ikorodu in exchange for yams and vegetables. Ikorodu is just one of the areas. Of course, we also have the Eletri, in traditional Lagos society, to show the extent of Ijebu's influence in Lagos and the Eastern District, though it's an admixture of Awori, Benin, and Ijebu people. It's a veritable center of, all of these farm products that find their way into Lagos for sale. So we can talk of that. However, the most important of it is that some other culture that you find in Lagos are also replicated in Ijebu or in the Eastern District. For instance, the people of Iwerekun, it's a kingdom now, they participate in Adamu Orisa festival up to today, in spite of the fact that it has become a separate kingdom. The same thing with Ikate under Elegushi, Oniru, all of them participate in the Adamu Orisa festival, which is the most important picturesque festival you can find. You may say I am biased, in every part of the world. One of the best culture you'll find all over the world is So aside from that, we have the worship of Oro, for instance, is a common trend. And in most of these communities, there is what is called Majowu. It is believed to be the female part of the Oro. People say that when Oro takes east, the Majowu takes west. And Majowu normally appeals to the women, admonishing them of how to behave in their respective husband's home, to be of good behavior and to pray for them. This is common in Lagos, although you may not hear of Majowu again in Lagos, but in some of these areas, especially in Etiosa, Majowu is a very strong deity that is believed to punish, especially the women in a polygamous house. They usually take them before the goddess of Majowu to swear that they will not commit any crime. Because if they do, they will be punished right there and then after that.
So doesn't that mean don't be jealous, Majowu?
Yes, Majowu, don't be jealous. You cannot, that's how our society try to manage, polygamy to some extent, and not just polygamy, to ensure that there is peaceful coexistence in different parts of the society. Majowu is an important aspect of the culture of the people of Lagos or Lagos Kingdom and those of the Eastern District of Lagos.
Lagos, interesting. So I have two more questions before I have to call it, to end this, because we can go on and on. It's very, very fascinating. And since you mentioned about women, somebody asked that what was the right of the females in Lagos with respect to gender equality? I know there was a landmark case. We learned about this in the first series, where in 1912, in Lagos, there was a case where women were allowed to inherit. Okay. I believe 1912. So what were the rights? Somebody said, and the person asked in the 1970s.
Before then, even before the coming of the Europeans, the Lagos society had always recognized the important role women play in the society. Of course, unlike where you have Iyalode in other parts of Yoruba land, you can have, for instance, the Erelu. Erelu is a traditional institution, sort of, or a chieftaincy, given to the female members of the royalty in Lagos. In some other parts of Eastern District, you have them as Iyalode. In Lekki, you have Iyalode. In Lagos, we have Erelu. There are two categories of them. Erelu Oba, and then you have Erelu Oshugbo. So, women play important role, even in traditional government in Lagos, aside from having the Yaoja, who is the head of market
women
society. So, and this goes into an era even before colonial government. I can mention two prominent women, aside from the Erelu Kuti, who became Iyaba at a point in Lagos. Aside from her, Shifajimilola, who eventually inherited part of Aromire's land that is today known as Okofaji, was a powerful woman, slave dealer. Because of her, wealth and power, she was given a chieftaincy by King Akishemoye in that period. Then we also had Madam Tinubu.
Yes.
Yes, who played significant role in the life of Akitoye as a king. Then continued to do that during the era of Dosumu, the son of Akitoye, until the two of them, went into loggerhead and she was forced out of Lagos. You know, but Tinubu's influence in Lagos society remain indelible. That today you have the Tinubu and you have the Tinubu family. So that shows that the Lagos society over time have recognized the role being played by women. In the colonial era, there are several other women who, played significant role in Lagos society of that period. We have the likes of Madam Charlotte Obasa, the wife of that popular Dr. Orishadipe Obasa, played significant role. We have the women, we have Madam Pele Ura, Alimotu Pele Ura, who was the leader of the market women and was able to challenge the colonial government when they were trying to introduce taxation on women. Also, she also challenged the colonial government at an era when there was this, when there was the introduction of what do you call it, price control in Lagos, that she forced the colonial government to, to abandon it. And then, on several occasions, Madam Peleura led the women folks in protest. On one of such occasions, during the era of Obafalolu, the popular song at one of their protests was Laduru ore tí nàgó ṣe fóyìnbó tán, òyìnbó tí ó bá òyìnbó tí ó bá mẹ̀kọ́, òyìnbó tí ó bá fẹ̀kọ́ á fèkó sílẹ̀ o. Òyìnbó máa ń tata ò ata, òyìnbó máa ń tepo epo, láláì mọ̀nà dọ̀gọ̀, Fálolúwà nígbà, ìran òyìnbó kì í tẹ̀gúsí. That was the era during the I think the World War, the Second World War. The colonial government tried to introduce food rationing and price control was introduced into Lagos society. The women folks were like, what is wrong with this government? Did they know how we come about our goods that they are telling us to sell at so price? The first thing they did was to close down the market during the day. And then at night, you can get goods to buy. And that is the beginning to some extent of what became known as black markets. Because so Lagos was practically grounded by the market women to the extent that they had to come to terms with Alimotu Peleura. And though we have several other ones that have played such role after her. So the society in Lagos is not a society that deprives the women of their responsibility in state governance.
Very interesting. And it can even be seen in present day where we have more and more conscious efforts to, include women in governance. For a long time, we had the deputy governor being a woman. And I know that we're going to even see more and more opportunities for women to really take the center stage. It's been a very interesting session. I have a few more questions, but I don't want to be presumptuous because I know that time is really not on our side. I don't know if I can take one question or two questions. What do you think?
It's okay, you can go ahead.
Okay, I mean, there's actually a little bit of a thorny issue somebody mentioned, which I'm actually interested to know. Someone said, what will be an historian's perspective on the forced eviction of Egun people in Eastern District? I think that's the Otodobame case. What claims that, with claims that they are not Lagosians that are from Benin? Do you have any information on that? The Egun.
Well, I think it's a very, in the pre-colonial era, when there was no, colonial boundaries that demarcated countries as we now have it. People have interacted across far-flung areas. In fact, this may be very difficult to say, but we should say it. Some of those sentences in the Idejo are believed to have come from that area, from the Koko area. The king, Akishemoyi's mother was from Apa.
Hmm.
Yes, in Badagry. Apa is considered the oldest kingdom in Badagry, but today the king Alapa is somehow relegated such that the Afghan of
Yeah.
Badagry
Yes.
is not pronounced. Some Badagrians may not also like the fact that for a very long time there were no kings in Badagry, but quarterheads. And during the reign of Adele, when Adele Joshua, yes, was forced out of Lagos, he moved to Badagry, which was considered to be his mother's place, the place of birth. And so he assisted in Badagry. This was also documented by that person that I was mentioning earlier, Sigismund, someone who wrote the Polyglotta, Polyglotta Africana, that the Adele Joshua used all his influence, either in form of bribe or in terms of gifts, to persuade the Egu people of Dahomey Republic to allow, Badagry to be. In fact, there was a local tradition that he turned to a woman and prepared beans, which was served to the Dahomean warriors, including the Amazons, that many of them died. And the remaining soldiers had to flee when they discovered that many of them had died. And so it was believed that he was asked by the Badagrians to be their overlord. Aside from that, there was a story in Lagos that the Ogu people used to come around the Idora waterways to steal Lagosians. And in doing that, yes, they used to come to steal them. They would take them away. Yes, until I think Odile also was contacted from Ofin in Ikorodu now, and he came with all his own deities to confound these people, and he succeeded in sending them back to where they were coming from. And so you have the Modile, being given that chieftaincy because of that feat in Lagos. Although some people claim that the Modile was also a king in his own right from where he was coming from. So what am I trying to put forward? There had been that relation, either peaceful or sometimes, bordering on warfare, between the Ogu people and the people not only of Eastern District, but all the coastal settlements in modern Lagos State. Beyond that, I said it earlier that it is believed that some of the chieftaincies in Lagos, even amongst the Lagos, actually originated from among these people. I may not want to mention names, but it is believed that from the Badagry region, the Badagry Lagoon, they came into large number, fishing into Lagos society, or even from Benin Republic, such that when you are in Badagry, for instance, the Badagry beach have settlement of some of these, Ogu of Benin Republic in there. The same thing in the Juleki axis. There are some of them that had stayed, as ocean fishing people over a very long time, that we cannot in any way say they are not part of Lagos. So what I'm putting forward here is that over time, there has been that long-standing relations between the people of Lagos and maybe the Badagrians or the Dahomians of modern Benin Republic. We will agree even that at a point, before these people came, there had been that relation. Dogba Brigemi of old Dahomian kingdom, was the one after which some other settlements of the Ogu were founded in Badagry. But in the Yoruba history generally, even Dahomey was part of Yoruba kingdom that sought its independence when it discovered that the power of Allah has waned drastically lately, later part of the 18th. So, Laomi, those areas had shared relations with Lagos over several centuries. I don't know if that.
It does. I think it does. So it just kind of explains how they settled there. I think we've been able to cover quite a bit. It's been a very interesting session, sir. Honestly, my eyes have really been opened, and everybody I've been seeing so many comments. People have been saying that they are very grateful for your insights. You've done a brilliant job of really sharing your knowledge with us and showcasing the kind of knowledge that you have. And I think Mr. Olaniwaju of LASU has even said that he's very passionate about Lagos history and culture, and he would like to see how LASU and LASTRAP collaborate more. And we do intend to continue to do that, as you are aware. Yes. And we just want to say a big thank you to you, sir. It's been a fantastic session. We've learned so much, and we look forward to doing some more work with you, in the future. Thank you to everyone that joined in.
Yeah, thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to be your guest. It has been a wonderful experience.
Thank you, Dr. Sanni, for that passionate exposition.